All right, hello, welcome to day 2 on arrays. Before we dive too much into the lesson, just have a couple review questions for you to try. Pause the video, see what you can remember, right? Maybe you only remember one or two of these, but try everything you can, and then unpause to see the answers. Okay, so when we do a regular score variable, we just do the type, then the name, and then equals the initial value, in this case 0. Can I bring this up because an array is very, very similar. All right. It just has more than one int or double or whatever data type we want. And you just do int, but then bracket, because we're storing the type is still int, but we have more than one. We're doing an array of int. So we do bracket, then the name. So call it scores because there's more than one. And then on the other side, if you want it to be initialized with zeros, you just do new because you're creating an object. And then basically you do the int bracket again, but the difference being here you put in how many spaces you want, how many scores you want to store. So for us, it's 8, right? And if you do it this way, it initializes all of them to be zeros, right, by default. Okay, and then if you actually want to store, change one, so this would actually change the fourth one because the index 3, the indexes will go 0, 1, 2, 3. So this would change the fourth one to 20. So basically then you would just type the name of the variable, which is scores, and that's an array, but you can actually get the int by doing bracket 3 represents we want the int at position 3, and I'm going to set that equal to be 20. Okay, so when you're done, your array will look like this. We've got the indexes position 0 to 7, and then the values were all 0 initially, but then we put 20 at index number 3. So it would look like that. Those would be the values or the elements. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to take some array notes together. So basically, this should actually be day 2. Sorry, I should put it on here on day 2. But basically, I want you to get this file from Schoology, load it into your editor, whether that's Eclipse or another one, and then we're just going to fill in the comments together. Okay, so there's a bunch of comments here, and we're going to go through the different code based on what the comments say. So to get this file, it'll be out on Schoology, and so my Schoology is going to look a little bit different because I haven't set everything up yet, but you'll find this arraynotes.java and then just download it and load the code into Eclipse, whether you copy and paste it or actually load that file straight in there. But you want to get it open and then start to fill in the comments. So the first 3 are on creating arrays, and there's a few different ways to do it. You can have it default where it's just all zeros, and then these 2 are where you actually fill it with initial values. So I'm going to have you pause and try. I mean, you can do this however you want. You can pause it and try all of this first. If you get stuck, you can watch the video. You can do it in parts, but basically that's what we're going to be doing is coding this. So at least try these first 3 here and then unpause the video to check the answers. Okay, so hopefully you got a chance to try this. So we're going to do an array of 10 ints and set them to 0. So I'm just going to do int bracket for an array and give it a name. All right, so it doesn't say what name we're going to do, so I'm just going to call it values. And then I'm going to do new int and then bracket again with how many ints I want. So I'm going to do 10 in there so that I can have 10 ints in my array. Okay, and then the other way to do this starts the same. So you do int bracket ages or whatever you want to call it. And then over here you do a curly brace and separate the values with commas. So basically this one's going to have 5 elements, indexes 0 to 4. And then you close the curly braces and do a semicolon, and that is the way you initialize it with 5 different values. You can also do this with a string. So all I do is type, instead of int here, I want to do an array of strings. So I just do string bracket and call it names or whatever. And then over here, I'm going to do the same curly brace thing with commas, but then I just have to put 3 strings here. So Larry, make sure you do quotes to let Java know it's a string, curly, and then Mo. Okay, and then close the curly brace and do a semicolon. So it's just like the ints, right? You just list however many strings or names you want in there, and you're good to go. Okay, so now it's going to have us print out a few things. We're going to print out the name at index 2. We've got to print out the age in the first position, which would be index 0, and then set the age at index 0 to be 17. Okay, so pause the video and try those next, and then unpause to see the solution. Okay, so I'm going to print out the name at index 2. So I'm going to call the name of the array, which is names, and then bracket, bracket, and then just the 2. So this now is a string, right? We're getting the going to this array and getting the value at position 2 or index 2, and that would be mo, right? 0, 1, 2. To do the first age, it's going to be the same thing. I just do the name of my array, which I called ages, and then in bracket, bracket, do the one I want to get. So if I want to get the 0, 1, that would be the 15. Just put bracket, bracket, 0. And then we can also change it sort of in the same way. So I'm going to do the ages array, and then that position 0. Now that is an int, and I want to set that to 17. You know, if we had a regular int, we might just do x equals 17. So it's the same idea, except we do the name of the array, the position, and then set the value. All right, so position 0 will now be 17 in the array. Maybe they got older or something, so now it's 17 right there. Okay, it doesn't say which, sorry, so here's 3 more for you. To print out how many elements are in the array. It doesn't say which one, so pick any of the arrays, I guess. Print the last element in any of the array, and then see if you can loop through the names and display each name. So this one's pretty hard, so you might want to, you know, wait for some help on that one. But if you want to try it, basically loops go hand in hand with arrays, right? Because oftentimes you're going to want to access every element in the array. Like if we wanted to, say, find the average of the values or find the sum or find the highest value or something like that, you would loop through all of them, right? So being able to loop through them, here we're just going to display each name, but later we're going to do a lot of different things where we like try to find the sum of the values or the minimum value or something like that. So you can pause the video and try these and then unpause to see the answers. Okay, so to get how many elements, you just do dot length. So I'm going to do a sysout and then do the name of the array dot length. Okay, and I know that's weird because when you do it with a string, you have like a bracket, bracket, curly bracket thing like that on the end. So for an array, you just do it like that, dot length. Okay, so that's a little weird, little different, but basically that would be kind of as you'd expect. So ages, there are 5 ages here, so that's going to print out 5 when you run this. The indexes are 0 to 4, but there's actually 5 ages. Okay, and so we can use that if we want to get the last age. So if I want to get this age here, 18, my length is 5, but the index is 4 for the last one. So you can do length minus 1 for your position. Okay, so if I do a sys out here, I can do ages, and I could just print out the 4th position, right? That would get you the last one, but if we change the ages, right? If we changed how many ages we have here, if we added some numbers back here, then it's gonna not get the last one anymore. So the way to do it sort of generically is you do ages.length and then do 1 less than that. Because again, the length here is 5, but we want to get the one at the 4th position. Okay, and that will print out the last element, in this case 18. Okay, and the nice part about that is if we were to add another element here, let's say we add a 21 here, then we don't have to change the code at all. It just automatically goes length minus 1, so it's always going to get the last one that way. And I'm going to take this back off just to keep it consistent. Okay, so now looping through them. So basically how this works is you're going to loop through the indexes and then print them out that way. All right, so just to show you, this would kind of be the long way to do it, where I've got my names, Larry, Curly, Mo, and then I could just print out the spots 0, 1, 2. But basically what's going to work better, especially if you have a lot, like say I had 100 names in here, I don't want to do this 100 times, right? Is you can just do a for loop and have I loop through the different indexes. So I is going to go 0, 1, 2, right? And then that'll print out basically, so we'll basically do the loop, and then we'll do a system out print of names position I, so that each time through the loop it'll print out a different name. Specifically, one is at whatever is at position I. So I'll make this a little bigger so it's easier to see. All right. And then basically the for loop, what we want to actually do is to make it generic again, is this is sort of length minus 1, right? The length of this would be 3. This thing would have length equals 3. So basically what they normally do is they loop I just less than the length. So if we stay less than the length, that'll go 0, 1, 2. You could also do less than or equal to length minus 1. That would be another way to do it, but generally they just go less than the length. Okay, so what this is going to look like in code is I'm going to do for int I equals 0. I is less than names.length. So basically we're going to stay less than it. And that way we don't get the array index out of bounds. And then just do plus plus I. And so that'll go through them one at a time. And then we're going to system out print, just like I was talking about, names and then position I, so that it'll print out a different name each time. Okay, so I again will go 0, 1, 2 and print out the name at each one of those positions. So you can see we get Larry Curly Moe. And that's super handy again, because if we add another stooge to our list, so let's say they add the Tyson stooge here, we don't have to change the code, it'll just do it automatically. It just prints out less than the length. So now the length is 1 more and it still prints it out. Okay, and so sometimes they call that writing the code generically. And so that's, a good way to do it. Okay, so now that you've got that loop, let's try one more. See if you can find the sum of all the ages in the age loop and then print that out. So it's a good challenge for you. Pause the video and try that. Pause before checking your answer. Okay, so we're going to do a sum variable that starts at 0. We're going to do the loop and then print it out at the end. Okay, so basically we're going to loop and add to the sum each time. So basically we're going to loop again, and we're going to have I go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, I'm not going to do 0 to 4. I'm going to do 0 to less than the length of ages, because the length of this again is 5. And so if we go less than that, we'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I'm just going to get the age. So I'm going to call like ages position I and add that to the sum. All right, so here we go. So I'm just going to do for int I equals 0, I less than ages.length plus plus I. And then I'm going to add to my sum. I'm going to do plus equal ages position I. So I'm going to add ages to the sum each time. Okay, and you'll see this loop a bazillion times where you start at 0 and go less than the length and then go up by 1. That's how you loop through them one at a time. In fact, we did that with strings, right? When we did substring, we started at 0 and we went less than the length of the string, plus plus 1. It's the same thing here, because you're just going one at a time, getting each element, each value one at a time, and then doing something with it, whether it's printing out or adding it to the sum. Okay, so when you have arrays, loops and arrays are like peanut butter and jelly, like they're best friends. We use them together super frequently. All right, in fact, that's where you're going to end up using these loops quite a bit. For loops is to loop through elements in an array. So at any rate, I'm going to run this and see the sum 77. We can go back and check, add those ages together, but should be right. So that's it. You have this completed notes now, and you can save this and keep it for reference purposes. So if you need to look back at how to do something with an array, hopefully this is the basics of how to create them, how to access the elements, and definitely how to loop through them. I would save that code for future reference. All right, that is all. Thank you for watching.